We have Alberto.
Hello.
Okay. And then we have, of course, Amadeo. Ah, excellent. Okay. So Italian. All right.
Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Welcome to another installment of On the Road Edition, hosted by Stevie Kim. Today, she is with Alberto and Amadeo Moretti Cuseri at the Tenuta Sette Ponti winery, located in Chianti, in the province of Arezzo. Today, they are discussing the history of the property, the vineyards, and their other two estates located in Tuscany, Orma and Poggio al Lupo.
Hello, my name's Stevie Kim, and welcome to Italian Wine Podcast on the Road Edition. And we are back to one of our favorite regions. Of course, it's Tuscany. And today, in particular, we're in the area of Chianti. It's between actually Arezzo and Florence, and we are here with the historic estate of Sette Ponti, and they have two other states in Tuscany, which we'll talk about. Today we are going to be mostly talking to the two siblings, the two brothers. Ciao ragazzi.
Ciao, Stevie.
Ciao.
Ciao, buongiorno.
Buongiorno. I guess, Alberto, why don't you tell us about three generations? Because it really started with another person named Alberto.
Ah, yeah.
So I think it's appropriate that you start and give us an overview of...
With the same name.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Alberto, it's the first generation thanks to our architect grandfather, that his name was Alberto Moretti Cuseri. And he fell in love for Tenuta Sette Ponti, and he purchased Tenuta Sette Ponti in 1950. So, second generation was born in this country house, and we were born in Tenuta Sette Ponti.
So Alberto was your grandfather. How did the wine estate start?
Our grandfather fell in love from this place, and he purchased in that moment. And when he purchased, he decided that he was like having an overview of country. Overview was love for wine, obviously, love of olive, to have a great olive oil, because he was crazy also for food. He was completely in love for everything, was like staying together with the family around the table, appreciate the good thing that our Tuscany country house can give.
So Alberto, how long have you started in the wine business? When did you join the wine company?
I have two answers of this. In terms of really starting and joining the company, 2016. In terms of growing up in a wine company, I can say that since a young time, because our father always talk and discuss about wine with us and say, okay, try this and that, what do you think? So until I could try wine. So here in Italy we can since the 18 years old.
So relatively new. In fact, when I Google, your name, sometimes I see names like Lady Gaga or Elton John next to your name. And why is that? This is your previous life, right?
Because I was, we have a part of business in fashion and in shoes. At that time, I was on this brand with my name, and I have the opportunity to sell some particular shoes to Elton John, and then I have the opportunity to design the shoes for Lady Gaga, because she had to launch his own parfum, and she gave this challenge to some design, and in the end I was lucky that she chose my shoes.
Alberto, your grandfather, started the wine business, if you will, right? He started it, right?
Yeah.
With Sangiovese.
With Sangiovese. And then your dad, his name is Antonio, all of a sudden he decided to go full force with starting your own wine estate, right, with wine labels?
What my father realized is that the area was giving like very good quality wine. So there was like this huge trends at end of the 80s, beginning of 90s of experimenting new variety, international variety, the phenomenon of a super Tuscan. And so he wanted to see if Tenuta Sette Ponti was a great terroir for Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot and see what's going on. So he started beginning of the 90s to planting these varieties, and the first Crognolo came out in 1998, and then we have first vintage of Oreno in 1999. He really had this dream to do like a very good quality international wine in an area where back in time there was no any of these international grape varieties. It was only mainly Sangiovese in this area.
So yesterday we went to Ponte Brioni, and that is one of part of the 7 bridges.
Yeah.
And in fact, your name of your company is Sette Ponti.
Exactly.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the meaning behind Sette Ponti?
Why we have this name? Because we are just in the middle of this very old road. The road used to connect Florence to Arezzo, and it's actually a road that is dated back like 1,000 years ago. So it was very important back in time, and it still is today because it's the main road. And these 7 bridges that were crossing actually the river Areno for 7 times, of course. And we have like the best kept, which is very close to our vineyards. It's called Ponte Buriano. And it's actually famous because it was painted.
And tell us why it's famous. You studied Wikipedia, so tell me why it's famous.
Wikipedia says that it was very famous. No, because it's actually painted. It's where Leonardo da Vinci got like the backgrounds of the Mona Lisa. So if you go to Louvre, unfortunately, in Paris, because it's there, Mona Lisa, and you notice in the background we have this beautiful bridge and the river.
So, what is your signature wine for Sette Ponti?
For me, Oreno.
No, not for you. For you, Oreno.
For me, Oreno.
Yeah.
And for the other, Oreno too.
Yeah. But your dad.
Even for
We can talk about him. He's not here.
For my dad, that it's the person that in the last almost 30 years of wine father are all kids for him, no? All his kids. So obviously, when we ask to him, it's very difficult to have an answer because each time that he try and he's going to close one wine, he's in love for that wine. And then arrive the other, like arrive another child, and now is talking and is focused on that wine. So for him, the question probably will be much more difficult.
So Oreno is, just for our audience who are less familiar with your wines, it is your super Tuscan wine. And in a way, it does exemplify your wine estate, and that it does characterize, and perhaps the success behind Sette Ponti is exactly Oreno. You have also another wine, which is Crognolo.
Yes, and Crognolo, it's like, I use another time my father expression. He always loved to say our contemporary Sangiovese for 2 reasons. First reason, because it's a Sangiovese that have to be more like drinkable and easy to drink if we compare to the very old style of Sangiovese when they were born. And plus, because from our historical Sangiovese clone, we create the new clone of Crognolo. Over these, we have a little smooth touch of our fantastic Merlot that give this like velvet aspect and touch in Crognolo.
Texture. So the Merlot is like 10%? I can't remember.
Can be maximum 10%,
But
from 5 to 10.
5 to 10.
Depends the vintage, yes.
So your dad, however, has a special, he has a special, I would say, love for another wine, which is called Vigna d'Impero. It's a smaller production.
Very small production.
Yeah, but it's very significant for him.
Yeah, and it's very, very important to him. First of all, I think because it's the reason why my grandfather fell in love with Tenuta Sette Ponti. Because when we came here for the first time, he immediately saw this beautiful vineyard that was planted in 1935 by the Italian royal family. Because Tenuta Sette Ponti was owned by Savoia Aosta, who back in time were the Italian royal family. And we kept these beautiful old vines, and from these vines we recreate all the clone and the selezione massale, and we replanted all the Sangiovese that we have in the state. So Vigna dell'Impero is a very small production, around 6,000, 7,000 bottles, and it only comes from these 3 hectares of very old vines. And I remember when we did the presentation for the first time in 2012, like my father was almost at tears because he remembered his father's, and he said that he basically did this wine remembering his father.
And then you have another wine, a new wine, and it's called Sette. I originally thought Sette was because it's called Sette Ponti. But it's not because of that. 7.
No, absolutely.
And it's a new wine. And tell us about the new wine.
It will be actually released for the first time in October. So we're very excited about it. Sette is called Sette because in Tenuta Sette Ponti we have 7 Merlot parcels, each located in different location, and they have their own peculiarities. But every vintage we will select 2, maximum 3 of these 7, and we make 100% Merlot coming from only 2 or 3 parcels.
So this is a new project. And why Merlot?
Merlot, because considering Oreno is more than 50% of Merlot, so we really have a good quality Merlot here. The terroir and the soil is very good for Merlot. It's also good for Sangiovese, which need a completely different terroir from Merlot, because Merlot needs argilla and Sangiovese needs more galestro, which is the white clay. What is very special here that we have both this kind of soil, which gives a great quality wine. And Merlot, that always went to Oreno, we wanted to show how good is the Merlot here, and that's the best way is doing like 100% Merlot.
If you were to describe your personality with one of the labels from Sette Ponti, which one would it be?
I think I would go for Oreno, but not because like it's a very important and high-end wine, but because over the time it has been like consistency, like the good qualities, always like.
You think you're consistently good?
I hope so. But like, no, I like to be perseverant on something. You know what I mean? Like persevering. Yeah, you know, like I also love running. I did marathon, ultra marathon, and this helped me a lot to have like a kind of
discipline.
Discipline, yes.
What about you, Alberto?
Unfortunately, I have to say I have to give you the same answer. For me, it's Oreno 100%, but even for many reasons. But obviously, it's because it's for me every year is wow.
Yeah.
So I love to have an emotion, strong emotion.
Now, you know, I would like to move on to other estates because you do have 2 additional estates. They're fairly new compared to Sette Ponti in Tuscany. Would you like to tell us about that, Alberto? Yesterday we went to Maremma, for example. Tell us where Maremma is for our
Obviously,
audience.
it's Maremma. It's a big part of Tuscany, very close to the sea. And where we were yesterday, we were at almost this south part of Maremma. And where we are based, it's Maiano in Toscana, so in this beautiful high hill. So we were up above this place that was like very strong and very like powerful energy from the real Maremma. Poggio al Lupo because means like in this top of couple of hills over there, we think for sure last century or at the start of the last century were wolves. Because Lupo means wolf in English.
And what wines are you producing there?
We produce Poggio al Lupo.
That is the name of the winery.
And with the name of the winery, we have 3 different. Let's start with our famous Cab Cabernet Sauvignon, 100%. And then we have, typically from that area, there is a kind of Sangiovese, and we call Morellino di Scansano.
Right, which is the DSC, which is the...
Yes,
right?
Thank you. Yes, it's the DSC of the area. Plus a lovely Vermentino on the different part of the land that yesterday we have the pleasure to see. So one part with a chalky white soil, very mineral and really very white. Moving on the other side of the hill, we can see this very iron red chalky soil of clay for the red Cabernet that you see, Cabernet Sauvignon. And next to that, we are waiting for the Cabernet Franc.
And also the Vermentino, it had a special type of training, right? Vine training.
Yesterday we saw, and it's very interesting, this new system that thanks to Schuster we activate, what they call...
Who is Schuster?
I think it's one of the king in the world in terms of making agronomist for wine on the ground. We used to cross the part of leaves, even if the cordon is the same system, but when the leaves goes up, we cross and we make like a Y. And I say, why this? To give more sun to the leaves. And yesterday we said, wow, but yeah, it's full of sun. We don't
Yeah,
need
it's very sunny.
And they say that it's a way to give better the sun to the open leaves as much as possible to get in. And this helps quality, but even more, the quality with a good balance of production. To produce maybe more, but let's say it's a very handmade artisanal way.
Okay, and then last thing before you go, you brought us to the convent. And you gave us, and bello, and then you gave us kind of the inside. First of all, we discovered how to say giglio in English.
Yes, it's a beautiful flower that we saw on the top of the column.
Right.
Obviously, there is many sense of the flower, especially in Florence, where we live in Tuscany, especially from the Renaissance period.
But giglio, this flower, it's linked to your winery, Poggio Lupo.
Completely, because from there, when my father went to see, they take him because it's really beautiful convent in the middle of a piece of country on the top of the hill. So when you're right there and you see this column, you're like shocked about how beautiful are. And then he saw these fantastic, beautiful details of this flower on the top of the column. And he said, okay, this will work and will be our logo of all the wine of Poggio Lupo.
Listen, Alberto, I'm going to let you go, and then I will continue with Amadeo, with Orma. Okay? Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't want you to miss your plane.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap from Sette Ponti in Chianti. Join Stevie again next time for part 2 of this interview. And remember, for even more great video content from Mama Jumbo Shrimp every week, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We also have great wine podcasts being released every single day. Just go to Italian Wine Podcast, wherever you get your pods.